bound.
Hey guys, Tarr here for the ProAudiofiles.com. In this video I'll be demonstrating how to use reverb very subtly at the mastering stage to blend together your final mix. So far I've used the iZotope Ozone 5 plugin to do some simple spectral processing to remove unnecessary low frequencies and high frequencies. In this video I'm going to move on to the reverb module, but here's what I've got so far.
Trouble bound, we hit the town. I'll never forget that sound.
If you're working in a home recording studio, especially if you're working primarily in the box, it's likely that most of the signals you've recorded are very dry and lack the ambience that's normally captured in a large studio. The good thing is there are some great software reverbs, including the one in Ozone 5, that make it possible for all these signals that you record to sound like they were performed in an acoustic space. One issue that comes up though when you're working primarily in the box is a lot of the sample libraries and cabinet impulses that you're working with were all recorded in different spaces. Therefore, it can sound like all these instruments and singers weren't in the same room when they actually recorded, and this can make their performance sound unnatural. So what you can do is add in some very subtle reverb at the mastering stage that's going to bring the whole mix together. So let's get to the reverb module. I'll turn it on here. The first thing I want to point out, and the warning that I have for you, is very easy to overdo reverb when it's across the full mix. Now if you're trying to add it in as a perceivable effect, you should focus on doing that in the mixing stage, not in the mastering stage. So if you find yourself wanting to overdo it, go back and do it in the mixing stage, and then come to the mastering stage and focus on how you can do it very subtly to blend everything together. So the first control I'll show you is the wet mix and dry mix control. I'm going to start out the wet mix here. This is just the level of the reverb, and this is the dry mix is just the level of the unprocessed signal. I'll blend it in all the way up to 100. You can hear what's happening is it immediately washes out the whole mix, and that's not what you want to end up doing, but it's obvious to hear, so I'll do it to show you.
Trouble bound, we hit the town. I'll never forget that sound. Tonight I fell asleep.
So eventually, it's my conventional way of using it that I only bring in about 20 to 30% here, and I'll come back to this later on after I figure out how I want my reverb to sound. The good thing is with Ozone 5 is you have all kinds of different controls and reverb types that you can really dial in a reverb that fits well with your song. While I'm doing that, I'm going to switch on this solo wet button that just allows me to only listen to the wet only without hearing any of the dry. So here's what it sounds like, only reverb. Next, it's just a matter of using the controls to find a reverb that you think will fit well with your song. You have the different modes over here, anything from a room that has a very short decay time, more of an intimate sound, which is probably going to fit well with my pop rock song, all the way up to an arena, which has a much longer reverb time, which probably won't fit with my song. Maybe you would want to use it for more of a huge rock kind of sound where you're going for that larger than life sort of feel. But here I'm going to focus on these ones that have a shorter reverb time, the room, the theater, and the plate. So I'll switch on these, listen to them. What I'm primarily listening for when I'm switching between them is which reverb fits well with my song, which instruments are more accentuated when I go from one to the other, which frequency ranges are being more accentuated from one type to the other. And then it's just a matter of using these other controls, decay time, to figure out what's going to match my song particularly well. So right off the bat, I noticed the room has some nice things going on in the upper mids. The theater is very wide, and it also has some low mids that are louder than the other parts, and the plate is very, very bright, a lot of high frequencies. So I think the one that I like the best is room. I'll focus on this, and it's just a matter of kind of dialing in the decay time. Again, I don't really want it to be very long because it's more of an intimate pop acoustic song. And then I'll also play around with the low frequency decay and high frequency decay. Next up is a width control. This is if it's the stereo image of the reverb is going to be all the way to the left and the right, or if you want it to be very much in the center. Now, I'm going to try out a couple different things for this song and see what works. My initial intuition is that I want it to be very, very close and very narrow because it's more of an intimate song, but I'll try out both a narrow and a wide one. For now, I'll start out with it being more in the narrow side of things, and I'll come back to this when I bring in the rest of the unprocessed signal and see how it's fitting all together. Last thing I'll show you before I get to that then is the EQ processing that can take place up here. I normally try and do this because I find with the reverb, things like reverb on the kick drum can sound too booming, and reverb on the cymbals, especially at the final mixing stage here and mastering, these can be a little bit too bright and harsh. So next, I'll turn off solo wet so I can bring in the unprocessed signal next with the wet signal.
Trouble bound, we hit the town. I'll never forget that sound. Tonight I fell asleep at the wheel.
From what I'm hearing, I think that 20% on the wet mix control is plenty. So what I'll do now is just turn it on and off, and you can hear very, very subtly how it's bringing everything together, but it's not doing anything to wash out my mix or be too much of a prominent perceivable effect.
Trouble bound, we hit the town. I'll never forget that sound. Tonight I fell asleep at the wheel.
Again, this idea of adding reverb at the mastering stage is a great technique to use, especially if you're working a lot in the box, where you have these different signals with different reverbs that can all sound different. It's a good idea to bring it all together and use a single one across the full mix. Again, don't overdo it. Bring it in subtly, just as everything else you would do at the mastering stage. So stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to move on to the harmonic exciter module and show you how you can use it to bring some life to your tracks.
Trouble bound,